Okay, so I'm a bit out of practice, but we're going to try a simple tutorial. If you've seen the previous video, you'll know that I've made 7 envelopes for the first 7 days of the 100-day project, and I'm just going to show you fairly quickly how I put those together. 2 different ways, and I think we're going to have the front of the envelope with the writing going the right way. So I've the bottom of my page, I like to just sort of reinforce the first edge, so I'm just folding this over. I haven't measured these are literally just, I'm just going to do this by eye. I'm folding that up probably about 2/3 of the way, and then for the flap down it's just a simple fold just to reinforce that edge and fold that down so everything is more or less level. You need a bit of a gap here, probably ideally have that a bit bigger actually, that gap. Let's make it do that. So this is where we're going to either glue it or stitch it. I'm going to stitch, but you can glue it. Stitch around the edges, and that's 1 envelope made. These you can either glue down or stitch down. I think I'll just pop a bit of glue along those just so that you can see, but I will stitch those edges as well. That's that one. So that just gives a bit of reinforcement when you're actually putting things in there. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to decorate these yet, but we'll have a think about that, and we'll do that. The next one, just to explain, when you either glue these down here and here or stitch them, you end up with a really quite a tight envelope, so you can't get a whole lot in there. A way to give yourself a bit more room is to sort of gusset the edges, so we'll do that on this piece. I'm going to do this sideways, and initially I'm just going to turn both sides in, trying to keep it straight. I'll use this. I don't want to do any measuring, this is meant to be really straightforward. I don't like my envelopes too big, so at the moment I'm turning these in quite a long way, but I'm creasing them well. This is still going to be turned over, so this is our pretty much the size of our envelopes, quite a small one, this one. Can see what I'm doing. I'm making my bottom of the envelope, and then the top I want to leave a little gap, so I'm going to turn this over around about there. And obviously this is going to be a bit, I don't want my flap to be quite that big, so I'm going to cut a bit off. Obviously quite brittle paper, is cracking a bit, but sorry about that. So that's the size of our envelope. Now, to make those gussets, if you open it all out, it's quite hard to see in this light, but we've got creases here and here from this fold, and creases down here. And I'm going to cut out, let me get a pencil, I'm going to cut away all of this and all of this down to this crease here. Okay. So let me do that. You can use scissors or a craft knife. I actually quite like using a craft knife, so I'm cutting this in to where the creases, where the folds cross there. I'm just angling it slightly, and I'm going to take my craft knife, I'm going to push this up to the fold, and I'm just going to take that off. I've gone a bit deep there, but it doesn't really matter. And the same this side. And we also, on this particular one, because I folded this up, I've got a little here, I've got a little excess bit here and here. So I'm just going to cut those off as well. If you don't want to reinforce the top of your envelope, you wouldn't have this bit, so that doesn't matter. And these are quite wide, so I'm going to shorten those to about, I don't know, just under ½ inch. So that's all that done. I'm going to glue this reinforcing bit down, like so. And then when we actually come to stitch or glue this, we'll fold those in and glue them down, so that when you open this, there will be a little bit more space to put things in that envelope. And then for the top flap, you can either fold this in or not, whichever you prefer. This is quite delicate paper, so I am just going to fold that down. So that just reinforces it. Here you can see that I'm a little bit out. It's minuscule, I'm not going to worry too much about that. Sometimes I just ease that fold in a little bit just to line that up. So that's the basic folds for the two envelopes. I'm going to go away now and have a think about how I'm going to decorate them and which bits I want to stitch, and then I'll come back and we'll finish them off. Right, let's go again, and I'll see how we get on with this. Hopefully it won't be too long-winded. The only thing I've done off camera, this is the one with the gussets in, is I've just stitched along where I'm going to fold it up, and I made the mistake of stitching over my flap on one side, so don't do that. It won't really matter. These labels are from Junk with Steph. I really like them being a bit larger, so I'll put the link, I'll link her shop underneath, and I want this on the front of my envelope like so. So I want to stitch that on. You don't have to stitch anything. I like the way it looks, and I've got my little handy dandy mini sewing machine next to me here. So I'm sort of pretty much putting that in the centre, and I obviously want to stitch that before we glue anything else together, so I'm just going to zigzag round this. Okay, so that's that done. Snip those ends. Some people leave the ends. I tend to snip them off. So that's obviously something you can't do once it's all glued together. So let's see how else we're going to decorate it. I have a sort of scrap box. I try not to keep masses of stuff in it, but it does build up. And there was a little bit of embossed paper in here, so I'm going to use that on this envelope. So on the back I've torn a corner piece off, and that's going to sit on there like that. So let me just glue this on. I won't make you sit and watch me sew everything, especially as it's not even on camera. I can't get it on camera. So that adds a bit of interest at the moment to the back of the envelope. And I've got some scraps of sari silk that I've just ruched up. Just used a straight stitch on my sewing machine, and I'm going to put that along the flap here. And again, I want to do that really before, well, it doesn't really matter with this one actually. You could do it after we've glued it together, but let's just see if I can get some glue to come out. Sorry, I should have checked this before. I do like to just glue it along sort of tack it in place really before I stitch it. That's barely come out, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's sort of tacked along there. If I just hold that in place, I should be able to zigzag that along that edge. So if you can bear with me while I do that. Tacked along there, zigzagged along there. Gone a bit off there. Trying to do things on camera, and I do like things straight, so I will probably unpick that and redo it. Or maybe I won't. It doesn't look that bad actually. And then on the front, I've got a little bit more of this paper, so I thought we'd put that along the edge there. Glue that. It's always, yeah, so you have that up there like that. It's always good when you're doing things like this to sort of coordinate front and back or pages side by side, in my opinion anyway. And then I'm going to have this here, but this time I'm only going to glue it, so I'm going to use a little bit of Fabri-Tac this time, mainly because I think it will come out of the bottle quicker. Put that on there, and you want to smidge in. And I've got a little silk flower, which I thought would look nice here. Again, I need the Fabri-Tac. If you're doing, I usually use white glue to put fabric next to paper, but if you're doing fabric to fabric, you definitely need something like a fabric glue. That should sit there quite nicely. And just for the centre of that flower, I found a little half pearl, and I'm just going to pop that in there. And this time I'm going to hope that this glue will come out. Try tweezers for this little. That's going to sit in there. And then we can join the envelope up. Sorry if my head's in the way. Fold that up, glue those down. So that's one envelope completed. Not completed because my little pearl has come off. This will stick it. Try again. Leave that to dry, and that will stick there. And then for the other envelope, I'm going to do something very similar. If you just need to get a couple of things together, and then I'll be back. Okay, so off camera for this one, I did chop a little bit off it. I wanted it slightly narrower, so I took half an inch off one edge. I've stitched on another of those Junk with Steph labels, and on the flap, this piece, I've stitched a piece of lace and a piece of chiffon ribbon. I haven't ruched it this time, it's just straight. I'm going to add a bit more decoration to this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is put something along the top here, and I'm going to use, this is a digital from somewhere, I don't know where, so I'm just going to cut a sort of straight edge here that's long enough to go all the way across, but I'm going to tear the bottom now. So I just get one row of text, and that's going to go along there. I haven't inked these envelopes. You could ink all the edges, because the paper is quite vintagey. Well, it is vintage paper, but it's already got a sort of sepia tint to it, so I'm not too worried about that. But so I've snipped these off. I will just go along this top edge here just to take the whiteness off there. So that just adds a bit of interest to that. I think I'm going to put a label on this side as well, and I'll choose a Tracy Fox label. That will do. And then on the front, I had this was a scrap in my box, and I've just sort of fussy cut it out. This is from My Porch Prints think it's called Roses and Letters, the digital kit. And I'm just going to glue that on there. Maybe down a bit. Okay, so again, I'm just going to go with glue stick. There like that, so we've got most of the rows on and most of the leaves, but not completely. I'll just use my scissors, just keep disappearing. Just snip these off. Okay. That was cute there, and I'd quite like to cover this corner up, so I have just ruched a little bit of that. Do I want that on there? Oh, can't decide. No, I don't think I do. So I am going to stitch this one closed, so I'm going to just start here, under here, and I'm going to make sure I have that folded up, and I'm going to stitch down here, across the bottom, and up this side. So let me just do that. I'm just going to use a straight stitch for this. Envelopes, so now I've got 9 from week 1, which is handy. Let's try and get rid of these ends. There we go. So this one, what I often do with what I often do with the stitching on the wrong side, where it pokes through the paper, is just go round with my bone folder and force that down. It just neatens up that edge a little bit. This side is the wrong side. Jackie, get it right. The other thing you can do is ink across there, and that disguises it, but when it's white on white it doesn't show anyway so much. So that's the envelope that won't open so much. It's just the straight edges that I think looks quite pretty, and this one is, let's see if that's stuck here. Yep, and this one with the little gussets in there just has a little bit more room within it. So hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry I was a bit rusty. I'll probably get it a bit neater and a bit slicker next time, but thank you for watching.